Good evening, Crypt Keepers, and welcome to Cryptique, where Ryan and I discuss all things paranormal, occult, UFOs, metaphysical, hidden history, forbidden archaeology, and all things truth. And as I alluded to, I'm joined by everyone's favorite frogger, Ryan. How you doing?
Just hopping along. How are you?
I'm living in an 8-bit world, man. Not too bad. We are recording right now after the eclipse. It's about 5:30 on Monday. Totally disappointed. Absolutely disappointed. All these things that they said were going to happen, you know, colors changing and fading and growing in intensity and, you know, moving shadows. And, you know, it got to be a little dark. I knew we weren't going to go full blackout here. And it cooled off a little bit, and that was about it. Now, my friend, she went to Ohio and got some amazing pictures, but I was disappointed here. So we got 20 years for the next one, so I'll be prepared. But anyway, I wanted to give a shout out to some Crypt Keepers that have been interacting on social media. So thanks Cujo with a K, Renan B, Kevin W, and Kristen A. Thanks for commenting, emailing, interacting any way you can. We really appreciate it. And, you know, we'll read your name on air if you want. You can remain anonymous if you want. But just let us know a topic you'd like us to cover, or send us a paranormal video, you know, that you recorded, or if there's something you see on TikTok or YouTube you want us to take a look at, just, you know, send those over and we will definitely get to them. So go ahead, like, subscribe, share. Socials are in the notes. You can email us at cryptiquepodcast@gmail.com. You can find our slick designs at cryptiquepodcaststore.com. And if you want to keep our mics hot, you can buy us a coffee with a small one-time donation at buymeacoffee.com/cryptiquepi. What are we talking about tonight, Ryan?
We are talking about phrogging.
Mm-hmm.
I made my awful little joke. This is the concept. Oh, go on.
Oh no, you go ahead. And do you want to?
You had a better phrogging joke.
No, phrogging jokes are few and far between at this point.
I do want to say first, before you get into the explanation, that phrogging is fairly new. When I was kind of researching this, I found that, you know, some of the earlier references actually came from a movie or a short film called Phrogging, which was released in 2014. But more often I saw references to a movie called I See You from 2019, which I think the poster is like a guy in a frog mask.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a thing that has obviously been happening a long time. I know some of the stories that you found predate that 2019 movie, or the, you know, common use of that term.
Sure.
It's a scary concept. And funny enough, it kind of led me to a critique on AI. Because when you first brought it up, I was talking with an AI. I don't remember which one, because I use a couple different ones locally on my PC. I also use ChatGPT sometimes. I like to keep up with what that's able to do, and then Google Gemini. But a lot of them are not able to tell you what phrogging is. So I asked one of them, what is phrogging? And it says, I cannot discuss things that are potentially illegal or dangerous or whatever, all these different, like, legalese sort of reasons. I was like, but I don't know what it is. Can you tell me what it is? And it's like, I cannot discuss something that's illegal or dangerous, or, you know, could get you in trouble on social media. And it's like, but you need to help me not get in trouble. I don't know what this is. Why is this illegal? Why is this something you can't talk about? And it just, you know, it's one of those things where if you're afraid that AI will eventually like take over from normal search engines, what if you just went to Google one day and you're like, what is this? And it's like, nope, you're not allowed to know about that.
Yep.
Why? What is that? Like, what if you found that in your kid's bag? Like, what if you pulled a note out of their backpack or pocket when you're doing laundry, and it's like, mention some word. You're like, what is this word? You just get this thing back saying, sorry, can't tell you.
Yeah, me and Bill are going phrogging tonight. Well, okay, why is it spelled PH? Because, and where's your wading boots and your gig? Oh, it's something totally different.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. It doesn't matter, because one day soon, if the oligarchs have their way, it will just be downloading whatever lessons they want you to learn, and they'll just put that in your brain, and that's just what you think. And that's what we're fighting against, Ryan. Not necessarily tonight, but in general. So, all right. So phrogging. Phrogging is the concept of someone clandestinely inhabiting your home, lurking in the shadows and indulging in your belongings while you're away. And obviously, that's pretty unsettling, but it has a name, phrogging with a PH. Unlike typical, and this is important, unlike typical home invasions where the aim is theft or robbery, phrogging involves individuals sneaking into homes with the intent to live there temporarily and rent free. So picture this: you're at work, you're out running errands or whatever, and an uninvited guest is making themselves at home in your house. Now, they're not even after like your TV or your jewelry or anything like that. They just want to creep around and like live in your attic and, maybe in a loft over your garage, or there's all kinds of weird spaces that people have found to just be in your house, and that's very creepy. So for these people, phrogging offers a risky yet cost-free lifestyle. They may enjoy the thrill of evading detection while indulging in the comforts of someone else's home, all without the burden of paying rent or bills. I think it goes way beyond that, because it's not, what we'll get to, it's not really necessarily like homeless people that are just innocently looking for a place to, get where they're out of the elements or something like that. There's more to it.
It can be, but
yeah.
it's not always.
I don't know if I would.
Always.
Yeah, I don't even know if I would call that like traditional phrogging, because we'll get into some stories, towards the end. But in any case, it's super creepy, and it is, in my opinion, it's a lot of like thrill seeking. It's not necessarily, oh, I just need a place to stay. There's something wrong with the people that do this, and that will kind of play itself out. So the clandestine world of phrogging remains shrouded in mystery, Ryan, making it difficult to, find out how many are out there, because if they're successful, you never know. Now, all of the ones that are unsuccessful, we know about, but it's hard to extrapolate that out. You can't say because we found, 35 cases in 2023, that means there was actually 3,500 cases, right? So you can't really extrapolate it. So there was so just a couple kind of glancing over it. There was a Knoxville man who stumbled upon a half-naked individual residing in his crawl space. Well, why did he have to be half naked? If you're going to frog, wear a damn shirt.
No, why not all naked?
Just nice and greased up so you can get in and out through the chimney, right?
Frog it up, man.
So there's another case in Cedar Rapids where this guy, Braden Woodhouse, was convicted of breaking into homes. And he would get on their computers, which I don't know how, because I can hardly remember my passwords as it is. But for whatever reason, he was able to get on these computers, and he just wanted to watch some porn. So I don't know. And that's a light case, right? Like it could get a lot worse. But these are just some cases that made headlines where these people were actually, apprehended and charged. So the true frog, the adept practitioners who leave no trace behind but a lingering sense of unease, remain elusive. They operate under the radar, evading detection and blending seamlessly into the fabric of their chosen dwellings. So there could be thousands, probably not millions, but there could be thousands, or we really could have found every single one. Probably not.
Seems unlikely, yeah.
So what constitutes a frog? So they're not, like we said, typical squatters or thieves, but this house hiding is kind of a way of life for them. Now, there's got to be mental health issues with a high number of these, a high percentage,
With a
right?
high number, yeah. Do you want to make some stories in while you're talking about this? I can give examples.
Sure. Go ahead.
So we've got a story that you had found as well, but basically a couple from Honolulu were vacationing in the mainland, visiting family.
And we'll play
And
video
this,
of this as you're going. I've got
sure, and
some
this
video
was,
on this one.
okay. And this was 2019. And when they came back, they found that somebody had moved into their house. Now, some of the versions of this that I found said that the guy was like standing in the front door, like waiting for them to come in. Uh, it seems pretty likely that a lot of these are sensationalized in that way. But they called the police, and who came and found and arrested Ezekiel Zayas. I think that's how you pronounce that, and charged him with burglary. He was taken into custody, and that's when they found that the house had been trashed. There were bodily fluids of various sorts all over the furniture. The kitchen was filled with whatever interesting concoctions this guy was trying to come up with, and just general mayhem. All their stuff was thrown around, taken out, moved. They found messages. The guy had written about performing surgery on the couple, and there were knives and things laid out on the bed, like ready for his procedure, whatever it was that he was going to do. The police, that is, found diary entries about the family members and suspected that this guy had been watching them for some period of time. They're not sure, but like long enough that this is not just, oh, I'm too hot. I need to get out of the sun. Look, this door's unlocked. Let me go in here. He had clearly been there for a while. They talked to the couple who recalled a few strange events like webcams turning on in the middle of the night, doors being left unlocked. And this guy, while waiting for his trial, killed another inmate while he was in jail. Yep. And got charged with even more crimes. So this is somebody who's got problems. I mean, serious problems.
It seems to be a common theme that they like to trash the house too. I don't really understand that. I mean, I know when they're staying there, they're normally trying to leave no trace behind, but it does seem like a common theme where it's like, yeah, all of our stuff was pulled out. It was just like haphazardly thrown around. It's not like he was stealing a bunch of stuff. And
yeah,
it's crazy.
Well, and then there's another one. Today I was listening to Criminal, which is like a Vox podcast, and they did an episode back in 2017 called, I think, Bump in the Night, where they interviewed a woman who, like when she was pretty young, had a frogger, or what we would now call a frogger, somebody living in her apartment. She is from some small like farm town. She said it's very safe. You would never suspect anything would happen. And she always felt comforted by the fact that like her, sibling and their spouse lived like a couple blocks away. But she was saying that there was a door to the attic, like I think in her bedroom. And she didn't really think anything of the stuff that was happening at first. She was, she would bring a pack of soda home. She talked about she would drink one, maybe take one to work for lunch, and then come home and one or two more would be gone. And she figured out it's probably just my brother stopping by because he has a key and he's just like grabbing something because it's quicker than going home. And eventually she confronted him about it. It was like, stop doing this. I can't feed you too. And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. But she just let it go. Again, you wouldn't suspect anything like this. The big thing that happened next was she was at work and her landlord called and said that her bathroom was flooded. And like something had gone wrong. Pipe had burst, something like that. It was coming down to the apartment below. She had a puppy, a dog, that she kenneled in the bathroom. And when she got there, the landlord was like, yeah, we didn't open the door because we don't know what kind of dog it is, how big it is. We don't want to take any chances. So they opened the door, and the dog is a little puppy, and it's in the sink. Like, it's safe and in the sink. It could not have gotten up there on its own. That is not where the water was coming from. It was inexplicably there. And then finally one night when she was home, it was like the first night since she had moved in that she hadn't gone out somewhere, either to work or to visit somebody.
Sure.
And she had been sick. She was in the bath, and she was talking about that she went to light like a candle or something to relax, and noticed that she could see that door was open in her bedroom in the ceiling. And she realized like there must be somebody nearby. So she said that she waited what was probably a couple seconds, but felt like minutes, like got up like, oh, I need to go grab whatever and put on a robe. And she said she just walked past the door, like didn't want to see anybody, didn't want to do nothing, and called the police. And the police found like some food, sleeping bag, stuff like that. And she said, like, I figured this guy probably just had some kind of problem and didn't have anywhere to go. Like if he wanted to hurt somebody, he would have. And she was like, he wouldn't have like picked up my puppy and put it in a safe place where it's not going to get wet or drown or whatever else if he's a bad guy. But she never got a chance to figure out who it was. So you have on one hand a story where it seems as though somebody just needed shelter from the weather and a place to sleep. And on the other hand, you have a guy who's ready to do some surgery on this random couple when they come home.
So more on that couple. The lady, I believe Brittany Campbell, was big into like makeup tutorials, right? And I know that probably, I don't know if crypt keepers are into it or not, but a lot of people, a lot of ladies, there's a lot of guys too, and a lot of teens, they're into makeup tutorials, right? Oh, I want to do my makeup to go out and, like on a Friday night to a dance club. What's the best makeup to go with this outfit, or, whatever. And Brittany was into that. So she would, I don't know if she released videos of her doing tutorials, but she did record her doing makeup tutorials. So on this computer, they found that this dude, Ezekiel, made his own makeup tutorial with her makeup, and he was drawing lines like where he was going to cut them and stuff like that. So they actually have video, and we'll play a little clip too, where this guy, this Frogger's doing his own makeup tutorial, and this woman finds that, I mean, it's bad enough, like, you don't want to share your makeup with some random stranger, but it's just super creepy that he's like, oh, I'm gonna like do this too. Like, what would possess somebody to try and copy what people are doing in their house, unless it's just to terrorize them?
Yeah,
Makes no sense. But in any case, let's move on a little bit. So there's rumors of an underground community of froggers, and they allegedly get together on dark web forums, and they exchange tips on evading detection, and then they even share footage of unsuspecting homeowners for bragging rights. So, this has never been proven, but I think that, you could probably find just about anything horrible on the deep web or the dark web. So in any case, did you have something?
No, I mean, I was going to at some point ask if you've ever been worried about it or suspected it in your own home.
No, I have not, because I have a 65-pound pit bull that I don't think that, I know he's a sweet dog, but if anything happened to one of the family members, he would definitely attack whoever was doing it. And then we've got 2 other dogs, and I've got 5 cameras around my house. We have, the only place that you can hide is in our attic, which you would have to get a ladder and pull the ladder up into the attic. It's not impossible, but it would be, I would notice, like paint chips or drywall shavings or whatever on the floor. And then again, I mean, I also have a thing on my front door that says, in case of fire, please save 3 dogs. So you don't want to do that if you don't have dogs, because you don't want a fireman to risk his life, or a firewoman to risk their lives trying to save your dogs. But if you have dogs, throw up a beware of dog sign. Put one of those things on your front door. You need that anyway in case a fire starts. Dogs deter people, period. Even if you just get a little dog, if it barks, generally people are going to run, or at least not come in.
It's a good little motion alarm.
Exactly. And I mean, let's be honest, I'm in Missouri and there's castle doctrine. So, if you're in my house, good luck. But in any case, and that's what you risk. So if you're thinking about doing this, you could get shot real easy.
Yeah.
And
yeah, one of the clips that I found was from the Joe Rogan Experience.
Mm-hmm.
and they were explaining what this was to him, and he's like, "Oh, this must not happen a lot in Texas." He's like, "This does not strike me as something that would go well in Texas."
Yeah. Yeah. Not smart. So there's people that have, tried to create guides on how to do this and stuff like that. We were going to talk a little bit about that, but we want to deter this because this is a horrible idea for anyone. I mean, the only time that this would be acceptable is if you are like, on a frozen tundra and there's a cabin there or something like that where you're going to die. And the fact is, you could die just from a dog attack or from being shot or stabbed or beaten with a baseball bat. Even if you don't own a firearm, most people have, a baseball bat laying around or a fire poker or something like that. It's not going to end well for you.
Yeah.
Don't do it. But so we didn't want to seem like we were promoting it at all because it's horrific. So what do you do if you think you may have a frog? Tip 1, everyone should have a dog, cameras, and a firearm. Cameras are very affordable. I mean, there's, it's not like it was 20 years ago where if you want something that you can actually identify someone's face, you're spending $700 on a security camera. You can get Ring cameras for $100 and they're easy. It goes to the cloud. It's not an issue. And there's tons of rescue dogs. You know what I mean? It is not, you can basically, I'm not saying dogs are cheap to own, but $50, you can go to a shelter and get a dog that's spayed, neutered, and up to date on shots. It is not difficult. But if you suspect that someone is secretly living in your house, get out immediately. Get everybody out of the house, get away from your house, and call 911, right? Pretty simple. It's if you have an intruder, you call 911, period, because you have to assume that they're there for the worst intentions, right? You can't think like, oh, he's probably just going to eat my oatmeal and leave a turd in the toilet. You have to assume that this person is up to no good because they are. Then you have to consider mental health factors. So after you have called the police, if they come and search your house and there's nothing there, maybe you're hearing things. Maybe, the house is settling or something like that. So, that's important to think about if you're hallucinating or something like that. And this is totally an extreme possibility, but take that into account. So another thing that people might be experiencing is carbon monoxide poisoning. If you wake up and you hear, steps everywhere, you hear steps on the attic, sometimes carbon monoxide can cause hallucinations and confusion. What do you do if you have carbon monoxide leaking in your house? Get out of the house and call 911, right? Avoid supernatural explanations. So don't always assume that, oh, my keys aren't where I left them. We must have a ghost. It could be a lot worse. And that kind of brings us to our Daniel LaPlante episode that we did a few months ago. And the I don't have the exact date on it, but the title is Sometimes It's Not a Ghost. Sometimes It's Much, Much worse. And yeah, and if you want to hear about probably one of the scariest frogging stories, go back and listen to that episode. But
it's not really what I want to talk about again.
No, me neither. It is horrific. But remain vigilant. I mean, if you have a suspicion, trust your gut, trust your instinct. Froggers.
Yeah. Your little furry emotional arms are going off.
So, but yeah, definitely don't take it lightly. If you have a suspicion that someone's in your house and you leave your house and call 911 and say, I think someone's in my house, you're not going to get in trouble. It's not like the cops are going to be like, oh, there was no one here. You're getting arrested now. So anyway, I have that actually here. We covered the Daniel LaPlante case on February 24th of last year. And yeah, it's not always a ghost. Sometimes it's much, much worse. And it is much, much worse. He frogged, terrorized, and murdered. It's a chilling episode, so you can go back and check that one out if you want. It's only 10 minutes, but pretty terrifying.
Yeah. But there are, like I said, other ones where it's not so bad. Or the intentions don't seem so bad.
Mm-hmm.
There's an instance from 2020 in Oklahoma City where a family, or it just specifically says a homeowner, so who knows how many people, was hearing strange noises coming from the attic. Thought it was squirrels somehow getting in. And, at first kind of ignored it, but then thought, okay, these could actually be doing some kind of damage to the roof or bringing whatever in, and it can end up being a problem later. So he climbed up there to check it out and found that it was not squirrels. It was an adult man who was sleeping on a mattress that was being stored up there. The homeowner had a gun, held the guy at gunpoint and called the police and reported that he had an intruder. Cops came and arrested the guy, and upon investigation, they discovered that he had used an outdoor staircase that accesses the attic of the building, and it was just convenience, essentially. The guy just climbed up there, saw that it was open, saw there was a mattress inside, decided to kind of make a little nest. And if it hadn't been for the fact that he didn't know where like the creaks and groans of the floor were, like if he had figured that out, he probably wouldn't have been caught.
Dude, squirrels are terrible too. But yeah, that's another thing. And this is the simplest thing in the world, and I hear about it all the time on true crime podcasts. It was a safe neighborhood. Nobody locked their doors. There's also a guy, I can't think of his name. He was a vampire type dude from a serial killer from California, and he just went to people's houses. And if the door was unlocked, that was a sign from God that that's who he was supposed to go in and kill and drink their blood. Lock your door. Don't put a ladder or a staircase to an open window that you don't even use. It makes no sense. Yeah. Lock your doors and windows.
The no locking the doors thing sounds very Norman Rockwell, but it's just not a good idea. I went to grad school with a girl who did not lock her car, and she was complaining to me the one time when we were just chatting in between classes that her car had been broken into and like CDs or whatever books, stuff stolen like 4 or 5 different times. I was like, how does this keep happening? She was like, well, my boyfriend is kind of a hippie and doesn't believe in locking doors, so we don't lock any of our doors. And it's like, that's not how that works. You don't constantly leave your stuff unlocked. Like, the correlation between safe neighborhoods and unlocked doors does not mean that unlocked doors cause safe neighborhoods. It is the other way around. She was like, well, he gets really upset if I lock my doors. It's like, then don't fucking tell him. Just lock it when you're at school or something. Like, there's 20,000 students wandering around. If somebody sees an unlocked car and like a new Kanye CD or whatever it was that you had, they might just help themselves.
It's unbelievable to me that people don't lock their doors. Lock your door. I don't care if you're a damn hippie or not. Lock your door. You don't want your tie-dyes and mushrooms being stolen either. It's like, I understand if like you have, maybe if you had, like we talked about a cabin. All right, you got a cabin somewhere. My friend had a trailer out in the middle of the freaking woods, and there was nothing in it except like a couple spots to, throw your sleeping bag down, stuff like that. They left it unlocked because if they didn't, people would just kick the door in and party there. So that's one thing. But if you're going to be somewhere or you need stuff to be protected and you don't lock your doors, now I'll feel sorry for you if you get a frogger and something bad happens, but I don't have any pity for someone that complains about losing their CDs when they leave them in their car unlocked. And it would be even creepier to find a frogger in your car.
Yeah.
All right.
Can I tell curled up in the back of your, like the extended cab part of your Ranger?
I tucked into the jump seat compartment in the back.
Yeah, exactly.
I do. It is funny because most of the pictures of froggers that I've seen, they are, very slim. Like, you wouldn't be a good frogger.
No.
I wouldn't be a good frogger. These are people that can slip into almost like HVAC vents, it seems like some of the time.
Yeah, God, I swear there was one. I think I found a story like that at some point, but Go on. I might find it later.
All right. I want to tell you about Pamela Anderson. We all loved Pamela Anderson back in the day, right? So obviously, well, I guess if some of you guys are young, maybe not. She was the lead female on Baywatch, just considered an international sex symbol. She was very pretty. Just kind of like a wannabe Marilyn Monroe type. I don't think there'll ever be another Marilyn Monroe, but kind of that each kind of generation has their own version of that. That's what she was. But Baywatch was famous for having these orange swimsuits, and basically it's a I don't know, what would you call it? I mean, it's a TV show for like teenage boys to watch when they're alone in their rooms, basically.
Are you asking for a genre for Baywatch?
Yeah. What do you think?
It's what kids now would call it a thirst trap.
Okay. I don't have any idea what that means, but
it means you're getting people to watch because it's a bunch of hot people running around on the beach in slow-mo.
Yeah. And if you want to see the Hoff, David Hasselhoff, run while sucking his gut in as much as possible, that's there for you. But so in any case, like this swimsuit would be highly coveted, right? Like this would end up definitely in like a Hollywood wax museum or a TV Hall of Fame, something like that. I mean, when you think of her in this orange swimsuit. But she had someone who was living in her Malibu guest house and wearing this swimsuit without her knowledge. Now, I guess back in those days, you could just take your props home, right? Like, oh, I'm just going to wear the swimsuit home today. But in any case, she was extra scared because her boyfriend once had an anaconda that was frogging in his shorts. Crazy, right? So, according to the Independent, Anderson, amid the zenith of her Baywatch stardom, was startled to find an unfamiliar figure peering through the window of her supposedly vacant guest house. That's creepy, man. Could you imagine like pulling up to your house? You know nobody's home, but there's just like some old lady looking out your living room window. Ooh, scary.
Or even worse, a French woman. Wasn't the Frogger French in this case?
I don't know. Well, maybe.
One of the versions I found said that. Well, go on.
All right. Well, we'll see. But so this was a homeless woman that had been living there, and she was wearing one of these iconic, well, it says red swimsuits. They look orange to me, but whatever. So Anderson said she had a letter that said, "I'm not a lesbian. I just want to touch you." And that's a direct quote describing the unsettling intrusion. And then Anderson went on to say that she got my bathing suit out of my room. I was there alone with 2 babies, and I remember seeing a face in the window. Isn't it the scariest thing you can think of? Like, oh my gosh. So, of course, she alerted her security because, she's, again, super wealthy from this show. And I mean, someone like that definitely needs private security. So this homeless woman, they couldn't find her for 3 or 4 days, and she was just wandering around, hiding in different spots, eating, blah 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 blah. So eventually, the police came and they found her because I mean, what if you're hiring private security and they can't find somebody hiding in your house, you need new security. But anyway. So they came, they got the woman, and they recovered the swimsuit, Ryan.
Yeah.
They got the swimsuit.
And they offered it back to her.
Woo!
And she told them,
no thanks. She said she told the authorities to keep it.
Yep.
I can't imagine what that swimsuit went through with a room of police officers. But
oh my God.
So she
that's an episode on its own. Just hypothetically, what could that have gone through? Where did it end up now? Yeah, a version of this story that I found, because I found it in a few different spots, said that this was a French woman, homeless French woman named Christine Roth. And then in the end, she was charged with a misdemeanor and ordered back to France, which sounds like BS, but I really like that idea. It's like Pamela Anderson is an icon. That swimsuit is an icon. Get back to your own continent. Get out of here. Just go.
But
Can't
see,
even look at you.
but the thing is when we have, I mean, I understand deportation is a big deal, but if that's your biggest fear, like if I was in Mexico and I was like, I'm going to fucking rob these people, dude. I got a gun. I'm going to rob these people, because the worst thing that can happen is they'll be like, no, we're just going to send you back to the United States. That's not a deterrent. And when you break into somebody's home, it's burglary. You should be charged at least as a burglar, whether you steal something or not. That's my opinion on it.
Yeah.
I just think it's totally unacceptable. But yeah, and then she kept the remaining swimsuit in a locked safe. So sorry,
Yeah.
you're not getting it. You're not getting it.
Oh my god. Yeah, so there's another one that I was reading about, because there are quite a few where like not really much happens. This is one of the creepier ones that I found though. A family in Mount Juliet, Tennessee was quite surprised to find that they had an 18-year-old man, which I hesitate to call that a man, but legally I guess it is, in 2019, to find this guy living in their attic. Matthew Casto is the guy's name, and he somehow got into their house undetected and lived there for a period of time. That was eventually stopped when the guy was just plainly seen at the top of the second floor stairs, and he panicked and ran into one of the bedrooms. They called the police. By the time the cops got there, he had climbed back into the attic through a crawl space. The police soon found out why this guy was there. He had been living in the attic and sneaking down at night to be with the family's 14-year-old daughter.
Whoa.
Yeah, so this guy was moving up and down through a small door that was in the closet, which I've seen in houses before. Some of my friends I remember had that. I think in my last townhouse I had that. There was like just a random square of ceiling material with a frame around it in one of the closets, but it never occurred to me that like somebody could get through one of those or use
Like
that for anything.
Well, like was it Ju-on or The Grudge, where that ghost kid had like kind of gone up into an attic?
Yeah, and then they like pull one of the people up there with them.
Pretty scary.
Yeah, I think so. Anyway, yeah, this guy was coming up and down through there, and the courts found that the girl was known to police and had been a runaway. And what does it say? She was reportedly the subject of unruly child investigation. So it sounds like she probably ran away and like knew this guy, and this was kind of their plan. This was like how they were living together in a way. The guy was eventually charged with aggravated criminal trespass. So not burglary, because it doesn't say they really stole anything, but hanging out in the attic and come down through the closet to be with his 14-year-old girlfriend.
I think that trespassing is a scary precedent to set, because you can get a trespassing ticket. I mean, I mean, if you're in somebody's house and you're found, they're going to arrest you. But I don't know, like, if, you get a trespassing ticket for being at, the dock past 10 o'clock fishing, and it's like 10:30, they're probably not going to haul you into jail. They'll give you a trespassing ticket. But I mean, I'm scared that people consider this trespassing, because it's, I mean, there's an expectation that if your door is shut, it cannot be opened by someone who is not invited or lives there. So to me, turning that doorknob is breaking and entering. You know what I mean? It's an action that you have to make to be able to enter a place. Now, I don't know how that would play out if you had one of those stupid screen things with the magnets that people can just walk through or something.
Yeah.
But it's breaking and entering to me. And, trespassing is, cutting through somebody's property, or, being somewhere. I don't know. It's not trespassing. It's way worse, in my opinion.
So do you want to talk about the Denver Spider-Man? The reason I want you to tell that story is that's the one I was trying to think of earlier, where you're talking about the people being small.
Mm-hmm.
According to a version of it that I read, the spot that the Denver Spider-Man was hiding in was overlooked because the little door to like the cubby or nook that he was in, the police thought was too small for a man to get through. Mm-hmm. So they didn't even bother opening it. when they were in the first time that something was reported.
Just go ahead and open it, man. Just go.
Yeah.
It's amazing. All right. So this is the story of the Denver Spider-Man. And obviously this is not the real Spider-Man. Peter Parker, you are safe. This took place in 1941. So Philip Peters, a retiree of the Denver and Rio Grande Western Railroad is kind of dim. Sorry, guys. Found himself alone at home. So his children, they were already gone. His wife, Helen, was recuperating in a local hospital because she had a fall and had broken her hip. So Peters comes home that night and he sees what he describes, and I love this, a haggard intruder rummaging through his provisions. So a confrontation ensued, and the intruder viciously beat Peters to death with a cast iron stove shaker. So if you don't know what that is, anything cast iron is going to be heavy, but this is something that's part of a wood burning stove, and it is, I guess I'd say, about the size of a small pistol, only it's solid iron, and it probably weighs, I don't know, what do you think, 3 or 4 pounds maybe? I mean, it is pretty brutal. So an hour later, he was discovered by neighbors, and of course they were, they called the police immediately, but the perpetrator had vanished. So later on, Helen, his widow, is living in this same home and trying to still recuperate from a broken hip. It's not like they send you home from hip surgery and you're doing jumping jacks. It's still terrible to months probably of rehab. So she started noticing peculiar stuff. Food was going missing, noises that made no sense, moved objects, and she thought that her house was haunted, which makes sense to us because we believe in that stuff too. And I mean, I'd hate to say that would be my first thought, but it would definitely be up there. So she moved to Grand Junction to be with her son, and she left the house, unoccupied. But neighbors kept seeing strange lights coming from the vacant house, and law enforcement consistently found no evidence of intrusion. So July 1942, detectives Roy Bloxham and Bill Jackson initiated a covert stakeout of the residence, despite no recent reports of suspicious activity. Now, that's pretty cool, right? These guys are like, you know what? We're not doing anything tonight. Let's just go see what's going on there. I wish more police would do that. So they saw this dude, right? They went in and there's nothing there, no person. So they eventually got to the attic entrance, and like you said, it was concealed in an upstairs closet. So I shouldn't laugh because this is sad, but some of the pictures that pop into my head are a little funny. So they saw these legs trying to pull themselves back up into the attic, and obviously they knew that this was the intruder, Theodore Coney. So he was an acquaintance with this couple through the Denver Guitar Club. So Coney's he was kind of at the end of his rope, I guess, and he wanted help from these people and found the house deserted. And he resorted to burglary, but it was to satisfy his hunger. He only wanted food. So then when he went back, that's when he had done that. And then when he went back, that's when he was found by the man and beaten. But in any case, they said that the attic had a putrid stench, and one officer likened it to a spider's den. Hence, the infamous Denver Spider-Man moniker was born.
Yeah, because it's worth noting that Spider-Man didn't come out in the comics till 1962. So this guy predated him by 21 years.
Yeah.
I doubt Spider-Man was named after this guy, though.
No. And it's kind of a silly name. I mean, when you think about it, you think about somebody like, coming down a rope, like creeping down into the house or something, but it was just because it smelled like shit, basically. Smelled like crap. Cut that out. I'm going to try and stop cussing. But anyway, so he got a murder conviction and he's got a place to stay for the rest of his life. It's a 8-foot by 4-foot cell. So good for
That's
him.
a positive way of looking at it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I saw a post on Reddit a while back that was like whether I'm sure this is all over the place and everybody listening to this has heard it before, but like whether you succeed or not, if you attempt to rob a bank, you don't have to worry about a place to live for the rest of your life.
That is absolutely true. It's sad. Yeah, you rob a bank and you go to jail for 25 years.
Or whatever. Yeah, it's like at least 10 years, something. You don't have to worry about it for like 10 years.
Yeah, but some of this other stuff, it's like, it's not a big deal. We'll just send you to France. Maybe some people will be like, I want to go to France. All I have to do is break into Pamela Anderson's house.
I gotta find the second swimsuit. That's why I'm taking out of here. All right, so I found one that's really odd, I thought, and there's not a ton of information on it that I found, but in July of 2022, police in Carson City, Nevada found a 2-year-old alone outside of a children's museum. When the cops were trying to talk to her, they wound up finding her older sister nearby, and they gave the museum's address as their home address. So the officers were like, well, this seems like BS, but let's go there. And what they found was that the family had created a hidden living space with 7 people in it inside the museum. The father, Wilbert Calhoun, was the museum's janitor. His wife was the manager. This couple and 5 children had been living in there for months.
Wow.
The cops found weapons. They found an AK-47, 3 handguns, some kind of rifle. It says a short-barreled rifle. I don't know if that means sawed off or what. A pistol, a suppressor, and I don't understand why it's breaking down handguns and pistol. I realize those are redundant. It might mean like revolver, and semi-automatic, because it also says a suppressor was found, ammunition, knives, and a taser. They also found drug paraphernalia, and the guy was arrested on weapons and child endangerment charges. And both parents, unsurprisingly, were fired from the museum before the museum was shut down for a while to kind of investigate what else might have been done there before they reopened.
I just picture this family like they go to this exhibit and they're like, okay, put on your loincloths and your headdresses and stand still all day. They just have, it's like, night at the museum or whatever. Right. Just like, nope. Sarah gets the teepee tonight. Everyone else has to stand here. And it's not funny. I mean, it is funny, but it's like there's this mental health problem that we know that goes along with this. And then the dude's got all these guns. I understand, collecting guns. That's fine. No problem with that. In my opinion, most families, if not all families, should have a handgun, a rifle to put meat on the table, and a shotgun if you need it. But I don't know why living in the back room of a museum, you would need an AK-47. Unless it was just something where it's like, that's all my possessions. All I own is guns. Like maybe sell a couple guns and, get a night in a hotel.
It's a decent point. Yeah, I've seen a lot of videos and articles about like blog posts where people are trying to sleep in like Walmart. Like back when they used to, like Walmart and Kmart would like set up a little like camping gear. I'm going to crawl into the tent and see if I can stay here overnight or whatever. Or like stealth camping where people make like camper vans out of, Mercedes Sprinters or Dodge Power somethings, whatever, it doesn't matter.
Power wagons.
Yeah, to try to see like, can I like camp for free in a parking lot instead of paying the fee to like hook up to utilities at an actual RV park or whatever.
Yeah.
Like that's a very different thing, and you don't need a bunch of weapons and drugs.
Yeah.
You don't need it. Maybe it's like the party. I don't know.
Well, hey, you know what? It used to be we'd make fun of people for living in a van down by the river, and now everybody wants to live in a van. Van life, baby. I would love. My plans are at some point to get like a 5x8 trailer and just make it into my own, camping trailer. Just however I want it. That would be fun. But I'm not going to camp in somebody's yard, or it's such a bizarre thing that this is a thing. I mean, it is so weird to me that anybody would do this, for the risks involved. I don't have any more particular stories. Do you have another story, or is that wrapping it up?
I have a few more.
All right, let's hear them.
There's a family one. My father recently passed away, but I knew this story already. It's not like I'm telling it because he's gone, but it's something that came up when we were telling stories about him. In the 60s, my dad hit the late 60s, early 70s. He hitchhiked from Georgia to San Francisco with his best friend. And something happened. There was somebody they were supposed to meet there, some friend who was supposed to be living there who was not there. They couldn't get a hold of him, whatever. They were supposed to stay with this guy, get jobs, whatever. Didn't end up happening. What happened was they were out of money. So they wound up getting jobs helping clean up a burned out building. Just, hey, we need work. You need help? Sure. And they didn't have anywhere to sleep. So they wound up finding that there was a large space in the roof of a nearby convenience store.
Wow.
So they went into the bathroom, pushed up the tiles, got up in there, and that's where they lived for a couple weeks. They said the only time they almost got caught, they went to pull it back, and there was some woman sitting on the toilet.
They went in the women's bathroom to do it?
No, it was one bathroom. They peeked down there, somebody sitting on the toilet, and they said, put the thing back. And they waited long enough that they thought there's no way she'd still be in the store. They both jumped down, kind of got cleaned up, and were leaving, and saw her, or it must have been her at the checkout counter, because she looked over at the bathroom, was like,
there weren't two men in there.
Yeah, that look of, I know I just came out of there, nobody went in after me.
Yeah, that's funny, but by the same token, they did take a big risk and put their lives in danger, because you just never know. And especially at a convenience store, and especially back then, they were probably all packing.
Probably, yeah. But there was one that I found that was really weird. I was looking for experiences. So I was looking on Reddit and a couple other forums. And I found a few where they were talking about, what's a story you've heard of, or, whatever.
Right.
But this guy said that he did it. He said, I broke into an old coworker's house and proceeded to live in their attic to survive the winter. So I'll just read what he wrote, and that can be our last story. But he said, it started when I lost my job in 2020 and lived off unemployment. I lost my unemployment in the early winter of 2020 and had to move out of my apartment. I bummed around for a few days trying to couch surf, but to no avail. Eventually, winter started getting more harsh, and I was getting desperate. In my desperation, I remembered an old coworker who lived in the neighborhood down the street. I went to his place a few times because our significant others were friends. They had met at a company picnic, and they hit it off. Never really liked either of them too much. He says, we'll call them John and Jane. I remember where they kept their spare house key, and when they were away from home, I checked, and it was still there. So I made my way into the house. A rush of anxiety hit me as I made my way in. I was starving, but too afraid to get any food. I just grabbed a bottle of water and made my way to their attic. I proceeded to creep around, getting an idea of where the creaky boards were and where I could lie down. The attic wasn't cozy at all. It was still quite cold. It was also very dark. I, for some reason, imagined it would be brighter like the Christmas Vacation movie, if you remember that scene. Which is funny because I thought the same thing when I went to a buddy of mine's attic, like when we were, teenagers or whatever. It's like, why? I thought there'd be more light. It says that he shifted some boxes around and poked around for a blanket, found a musty blanket that smelled like cat pee, and made a bed and a pile of Halloween decorations and other BS. Yeah. I waited until they got home. After multiple hours, I heard the front door open. Another rush of anxiety overcame me. My heart started pounding in my chest. I also realized that you really can't hear anything through the floor like I expected. I assumed it was Jane, as I would sometimes hear her walk by and sing to herself. After a few hours, John came home. I spent most of that time sitting completely still and went to bed when they did. The next day, I woke to the sound of the front door closing. I put my ear to the floor to see what I could hear. I could hear Jane's voice talking to someone. Come to find out, she was working from home because of the pandemic. I wouldn't come to this conclusion for a few days. Due to this, I started coming out at night, and the few times that they would both leave. Most of the way I knew they would be gone was by copying down Jane's schedule off her calendar on their fridge. Taking that knowledge and the work schedule John and I had, I could get an idea of when they'd be home. So he talks about went days, then weeks, then months, started getting more brazen, more bold, started sneaking more food, having more close calls. Closest one he had was when they came into the attic to get Christmas decorations.
Mm-hmm.
So he'd made his nest in the Halloween stuff, and he was pretty confident they weren't going to disturb that and find him, but he was in there, like nested in decorations while they're right there. And he said that John made a comment about how awful it smelled up there, like onions and cat piss, as he held his breath, hoping he wouldn't start searching for the source. They left for a week around Christmas. During that time, he showered, slept in their bed, ate whatever food he wanted, and by the time February came around, he felt he had been taking too many risks. He had been taking too much food, using the shower too often, sometimes even admittedly watching them sleep. I decided to sneak out and never return. During this time, I actually grew a strong parasocial relationship and still have some of their clothes and random items. I feel guilty about this. The time has passed and I feel comfortable saying it, but I would never tell them. I have since then started following them on social media and still watch them to this day. The last thing he writes is, they have had a baby and she is beautiful. Is that the creepiest? It's very relatable. Like, I went through this horrible experience and here's close calls and all this stuff. And then he's like, I'm basically Cy, the photo guy from 1 Hour Photo.
Yeah.
And I'm stalking this family now. I have a feeling this might be either fake or
embellished.
That's a good way of putting it. Yeah. Punched up with some of these details. But yeah, I mean, this is kind of a good overview of like how something that is for survival can turn into something much darker.
Well, and I think we should say that if you're a homeless person and you nestle up in an abandoned building, I'm totally cool with that. No problem with that whatsoever. But when you go in someone else's house without their permission, you're a target. That's all you are at that point. And don't do it. Don't do it. There's resources. It's not worth the risk. Yeah. There's resources. There's so many other possibilities that avenues for these people, that if there are sane froggers out there, they're taking an unnecessary risk. And I think that probably most of them have some sort of mental deficiency, emotional problems. They're not someone who's reasonable. You can't stick your head up in the attic and be like, hey, bro, I know you've been back here for a couple months. It's cool and all, but when are you planning on leaving? Like, I need you to leave. Okay, come on. It's time to, you don't know what that person could, see you and see a devil demon coming to kill them and they react. Right. It's not something that someone who is reasonable would do. So you can't reason with somebody who's unreasonable. Ask my wife. So, all right. I have a couple final thoughts to go through real quick. So, all right. It's not morally questionable. That was one of the things that we cut. This person was trying to say it's morally questionable. It's not morally questionable. It's reprehensible. You know how I can tell? Because it would be horrifying to find someone hiding in your house, and it would cause severe trauma for you and your family. If you call it questionable, think of how you'd feel if it happened to you. Pretty simple, right? Number two, what happens when some 14-year-old kid frogger that, saw somebody glorifying this capped by the homeowner? Well, now you've got a dead 14-year-old who was doing this as a dare or something stupid like that. And then this guy has to deal with the trauma of killing a kid the rest of his life. Number three, if I get up in the middle of the night and the zebra cakes are gone, I'm going on a rampage and I will find you. Okay? If you're in my attic eating my zebra cake, I will find you. Number
cosmic brownies for me.
Number four, I don't want your STDs on my toilet. Okay? Who knows what kind of drugs these people are on, what kind of, diseases they have. I don't want you on my toilet. I don't want you using I use like body wash and stuff, but I don't want you using my toothpaste they probably use people's toothbrushes, for Christ's sake.
Probably.
Number 5, bungee jumping, skydiving, cliff diving, motorcycles, ghost hunting. There's a lot of good stuff if you like taking risks. So that's my final thoughts on it. Don't do it ever. What you got?
I agree. Don't do it. It's you're the much better risk to take is to ask somebody for help or to find one of these programs where they offer help. I mean, I know that it's easier said than done. But man, it's really easy to get hurt if you get caught in somebody's house, especially by like a father.
Yeah.
2 fathers here with daughters.
Right.
It's a good way to get hurt, is to be found in somebody's house, unannounced, uninvited, unexpected. Bad.
Now, if someone, some lady has a bottle of Mad Dog 2020 and she's jingling your doorknob at 2 a.m. and her eyes are all crossed and shit, and she stumbled coming up the stairs, you can probably say, well, she probably is drunk and is at the wrong house or something like that. That's a little different. But if you're in my house, I am going to assume that you came there to rape and murder, because that's the possibility. That's the extreme possibility that I must prepare for, because that happens. Yeah. If you're in my house, I'm assuming that's why. And it depends on where you're at. But when you're in Missouri, I don't know about Illinois, but when you're in Missouri and you're in someone's house, they have the right to shoot you, period.
In Illinois, the law at least used to be, if you have a gun, you are allowed to use your gun to stop the commission of a crime at any point during its commission.
Even the fleeing.
Yeah, even the fleeing. I mean, this was a state's attorney, because I went to a class about this. And he was saying, like, technically, you could take shots at somebody out your window if they're stealing something out of your shed. Mm-hmm. He's like, I don't recommend it because it's not really worth somebody's life. It's not worth that weighing on you that, like, you have to live with, I killed somebody because they were trying to steal my crappy snapper weed whacker.
But I do love the, was it ACO or AOC, whatever, that said, if you shoot somebody for breaking into your house, it means that you value your items more than you value their life. And then 10 million people did the meme of, if someone breaks into my house, they value my items more than they value their life. So it can go either way. And like I said, I don't, if there's an intruder in your house, you're not going to be like, did you just need a shower and some Melba toast? No, you're going to be like, what the fuck are you doing? Get down on the fucking ground right now. That's how you're going to survive this. You get on the ground right now, period. And you're taking your life in your hands when you do this. And people love you. People care about you, even if you don't see that all the time. And people are going to be hurt by this outside of just the person who was, committing the phrogging. And it's one of those things that I really feel like is going to be 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds, maybe some 17. You know what I mean? Like, they don't necessarily have the concept to look out and see what kind of predicament they're going to be in.
I could see like people on TikTok doing this.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, hey, right now I'm in the attic of some guy's house, and you hear like, what was that? Is there a ghost up here? Nope. I mean, there will be, but that's not what that sound was.
Right. It's not worth it. And I mean, there are options, and the government doesn't make it easy. They really don't. But if you are truly homeless and you truly need help, there are resources. And I do think that if you go up to someone's house and knock on their door and say, listen, I have no place to stay, I'm freezing, they'll probably call the police for you, and you're not going to get arrested. The police will try and find, they will try and help you out. They're not there just to like cuff you and beat you, even though that's what everyone wants you to think. They also have resources where, hey, maybe you spend the night in a jail cell. and you're not a prisoner, but you've got a place to stay for the night. And then the next day they drop you off at a homeless shelter where you can get set up with, a bed or whatever. This is going to, the best case scenario is you get to stay in a place for a couple days and not get caught. The worst case scenario is you die. And that's a high end. I'm surprised. And maybe there are cases that just don't get described as phrogging. You know what I mean? Like, oh, there was an intruder in my house. Oh, home intruder. And they die. They get shot. Or the dog attacks them. I saw a thing on Facebook the other day where a guy tried breaking into a house and the woman had a Rottweiler. And there's blood everywhere. And there's just, the only thing that can come from it is bad. And you could die. And that's a high chance. You're much better off going skydiving than trying to frog in my house. I can tell you that much. You're much better off going cliff diving than trying to frog in my house. And I don't know. I just feel like it's going to be something where kids are killed. And going back to TikTok, there probably are people, and they're probably in their own closet, and they're probably saying, look at me, I'm frogging, look at me. And then some kid sees it and they're like, oh, that looks so easy. She was just in their closet and they didn't find her or anything. And it's going to end up in a kid dying. And don't be that kid.
There was a guy on YouTube that I saw a long time ago who would make these videos where he was pretending that he was like mailing himself places. So he'd like go to the grocery store and he'd be like, oh, I'm going to buy this cake and I'm going to buy like one of those jars of like pickled eggs or whatever, like something horrific that you would never eat if you would not have access to a bathroom. And then that's the joke, is he's like then in this giant box and he's like, oh, I think they're taking me here right now. And then like the camera bumps and all this stuff. And he's like, oh, I gotta go to the bathroom. And he takes like a pickle bucket. It's a joke, but kids are dumb. They could be like, I'm gonna try that.
Well, and
I'm gonna take this big padded box and stick myself in it with a label on it. Hope that somebody comes picks it up.
That's very true. I mean, it is a fact that my first car, the owner's manual told you how to make all the adjustments and stuff, adjust valve covers and valves and stuff. And now they're like, don't drink what's in the battery. Whatever you do not drink what's in the battery. And it's sad, but then there's also, this era of instant gratification, idolization of people for no reason, for like stupid stuff
or very superficial reasons.
Yeah, like having a big butt and making a sex tape. Now that'll make you famous. You'll be a rich celebrity. And it's like everybody wants the fast route. Nobody wants to pay their dues, and frogging will get you.
There's a line in How to Lose Friends and Alienate People, starring Simon Pegg, where he's in the U.S. from London to work for a magazine, and his new landlord, this like old Russian lady or whatever she's supposed to be, she's like, oh, you write for, about celebrities. She's like, everybody's celebrity. You take out your breast, you're a celebrity. And he just kind of like looks up and down. He's like, I think it probably depends on the breast.
All right. Yeah, so I think we're on the same page. Don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Not worth it.
Well, that's all we've got for you tonight on Cryptique. Please like, subscribe, and share. Again, socials are in the notes. Let us know what you think at cryptiquepodcast@gmail.com. You can check out what we're selling at cryptiquepodcaststore.com. And if you want to keep the mics on, buymeacoffee.com/cryptiquepi. That will allow you to leave us a small one-time donation, which we would certainly appreciate. And you know what? If you left us a little message on that, I bet I could get Ryan to read it on air. And remember, frogging is best done on an 8-bit video game system. Good evening, Crypt Keepers.